One of John D. Rockefeller's most prized possessions was a class photo, and it was a photo of his class, right, in primary school, but he wasn't in the photo. And that photographer that took that photo that day is responsible for creating the oil king of the world. In one of his letters to his son, he tells his son about the story where the photographer took him out of the photo, asked the teacher to take him out of the photo because he wore shabby clothes. Now, Rockefeller grew up poor, and oftentimes he got hand-me-downs from other people. And that day when the photographer asked the teacher to take him out of the picture, he explains to his son that he turned red and he clenched his fists, and he vowed to himself that day that he will become the richest man in the world. And he did. And just like that, the most humiliating and difficult times in your life can serve as a massive force to propel you into your destiny. People will humiliate you in life, and life is going to kick you in the face. But you can choose. Are you going to take that punch right to the gut or to the face, or you're going to take that and turn it into energy that propels you into or towards your destiny? Or are you going to take on the identity of that person that failed or that got humiliated? It always stays your choice. The secret to trading is that you need to know what can and cannot be traded. And that means you have to understand the value of an asset or an ability or rights or whatever. You need to understand the value. There's a price, but there's also value. And oftentimes, the price of something and the value of it is not in sync. When you partner with another company to, for example, take over your industry, you got to understand what you are trading and whether it's worth it or not, right? Are you trading 40% of your company, even though it's worth 2 million, for example, but are you trading 40% of your company for the equivalent of what it's worth, or are you trading it for 10 times more? Perhaps you can take over the industry like Rockefeller did with many trades and deals that he made or structured. Bottom line is, there's a difference between the price of something and the value of it, and you need to know both. For a man that was seen as very egotistical, John D. Rockefeller sure knew how to keep his ego at bay. And in one of his letters to his son, he said, when we replaces me, the results become incalculable. When you can show an attitude, a way of thinking, a way of doing to your people that portrays that you include everybody, that you are constantly thinking and doing and moving forward as we instead of me, then they will follow. And you cannot expect people to think as we instead of me if you can't show them how to do that. You need to show your people. And if you can do that, look at my organization, for example. My entire team and what we've built here is a result of replacing me with we. And that makes us extremely powerful and extremely dangerous. I've said this many times before, it's easy to cancel one oak. You can't take on 15 or 20. What about 100 or 1,000? But you need to show people that you can move the ego aside, the me, and you can constantly think, do, and portray an attitude of we. The kingdom is important. All I do is for the kingdom. And if I can focus on doing that for the kingdom and I can lead by example, then the kingdom will take care of me and my people. Then it becomes a team effort. Then the team gets rewarded. The team becomes strong. The team becomes great. And this is not some type of management style. This is a way of living, a way of seeing the world and choosing to be different. Like I always say, to be in this world but not of it. I promise you, when you can show your people that you will live for them, you will strive for them, and you will die for them, then they will do the same for you as well. And then you become unbeatable. Most people cheat themselves on a daily basis by wasting their time. They cannot effectively manage their time and allocate it to things that will bring them closer to their dreams or their destiny. And John D. Rockefeller puts it nicely. He says, it's easier for a man to manage his time effectively than it was for Christopher Columbus to discover America. And he almost takes a sarcastic stab in that letter where he says it's not that difficult and people are actually stupid. They're making their own lives difficult by not grasping the value of their time and allocating it responsibly towards things, activities and tasks that will bring them closer to their destiny. It is the most valuable thing that you have. The time you have with your kids, the time you have with the people you love, the time you have when you face adversity and conquer, when you create solutions and take action on them. Time is your most valuable asset. And most people are so consumed by money, not even managing it effectively. They're so consumed by money that they don't even see the value of their time. And we cheat ourselves by mismanaging it. The way you manage your time is more important than the way you manage your money. If you can't even manage your time right, how in the hell are you going to manage your money? And in a nutshell, Rockefeller says it's not rocket science. It's not that difficult. It's just most people make excuses for why they can't manage their time. And it's purely because they do not take responsibility. In one of his letters, Rockefeller told his son that you cannot make money on interest in a bank. And this guy told his son that over 100 years ago. Every penny can bring great benefits, can be fruitful if put to work with a winning recipe. You cannot blame life, the government or your parents because you don't understand money and you don't understand how to make it. Throw away your blame list and pick up your responsibility. If you don't know how to make more money and how to make money work diligently for you, then you have a phone and there's a thing on it called Google, right? YouTube, Audible. There's so many things that you have access to, knowledge that can elevate you in magnificent ways, that can turn you into anything that you can dream of. Anything you can think, you can become if you are willing to pursue that truth and that knowledge that is required for you to become that. But the first step is to take responsibility. Everybody knows that money earning interest at a bank doesn't mean jack shit. In fact, you are losing money, not making it. You see the digits go up, but the money and the value of it is going down. And that is not the bank's problem to solve for you, that is your problem, because the bank doesn't care. Nobody will ever care about your money and your happiness and your productivity or your purpose in life or even your destiny the way you do. And the only way to get closer to it is to take responsibility. You want to know how to make it work smart, how to make it work hard, and how to keep it. That is also not rocket science, and there is many firms, companies, and even people that you can use as resources to help you do that. J.D.Rockefeller said to his son that there is no greater tragedy in life than ruining oneself. And you do that by wasting your time, by wasting the most valuable asset that you have. And most people do that because number one, they've got no clear objective or goal that they want to achieve, and they don't put it out there. Secondly, they don't pay attention to where they're going, and thus they don't have a plan on how to get themselves there. And then we end up jumping around from one shiny thing to the next shiny thing. And when you find yourself 10 years later, you've wasted your precious time and energy on a whole bunch of shiny things instead of a clear goal and having a clear plan on how to get there. And yes, you will fail at some point. You are going to make mistakes. But if you stay diligent, if you stay committed, then you will eventually succeed. It's simple maths. It's a simple recipe. But you will not get anywhere if you don't set a destination. You can't expect to achieve something if you're not even aiming for that something. And that's how a lot of people find themselves at the age of 45 or 50, and they don't know where life's went, they don't know where their 20s has gone, and they feel like they've wasted 20 or 30 years. They don't just feel like it, it's actually what happened because they didn't pay attention and they didn't set a clear target. And it's painful. It's extremely, extremely painful. I do not wish this on any person, to look back over the past 30 years and realize I wasted half of my life. How painful, what a tragedy. Like Rockefeller says, the greatest tragedy of all, ruining oneself. But I also want to add, if you do find yourself there where you've wasted the past 20 or 30 years of your life, don't fall into the pool of self-pity now, alright? Dust yourself off. The 30 years is gone. It's done and dusted. Get back on the horse and make sure you don't waste the next 30 years of your life. And if you don't know where to start, you start by spending time with successful people, the people that have everything that you want. And yes, sometimes you don't know those people and you don't have friends like that. Then you buy their books. You listen to Mr. Tony Robbins, listen to Mr. Dale Carnegie, to Grant Cardone. Hundreds of people out there, Les Brown, that have a ton of recipes, a ton of motivation, and a ton of strategies for you to do this effectively. Get back on the horse and take action. In letter 26, Rockefeller tells his son that impulse is your worst enemy. Now, impulsive choices has kicked my ass more times than I can count. And every time it happens again, it just gets more painful. I'm telling you, I have been so pissed off with myself because of impulsive decisions. And the only way to keep it at bay is to know what your main goals are and to visit those main goals on a daily basis, to stay attentive on those goals. When you want to make a big decision, you look at those goals and you ask yourself whether or not you have thought this through. And is this decision that you are about to make going to bring you closer to those goals or to your destiny that you've lined out for yourself? Now, I'm sitting here and I'm talking out of experience. Nowadays, I can do it 6 or 7 out of the 10 times and I still get my ass handed to me a lot of times by myself, my own hand. Some of us need to get our faces banged in a couple of times before we learn. But this is where patience comes in, right? And a lot of people say, oh, I am just not a patient person. Patience is not a personality trait, it's a strategy. The ability to stay patient is the ability to push your emotions aside and to analyze. Quickly analyze the data. What am I looking at? What am I about to do? And is this going to bring me closer to what I ultimately want in 10, 15 or 20 years from now? And if you can ask yourself that, analyze yourself like that every time, I promise you, it's going to be a lot easier for you to manage impulsive decisions. I know exactly what it feels like to get hyped up. You're in the moment, you're feeling it, my man. You just have a gut feeling and boom, you go for it. It's stupid. You should think things through. The hardest financial hits I've had in my life is not because of external circumstances or conditions. It's because I made impulsive decisions. And I would love for my stupidity in the past to save people pain in the future. Trust me, it pays to have a strategy of patience. In one of his letters, Rockefeller talks to his son about people that provoked him. And he warns him to not give in to provocation. To respect yourself is more important than proving a point. Patience will allow you to play dumb, turn a deaf ear to criticism, to strategize, and to conquer wisely. Patience will allow you to let your opponent think that he's won in order for you to secure the victory, the actual victory in the future. And the only thing that irritates us about opponents or people that provoke us thinking that they've won is your ego. Your ego will get in your way. Let that person think that he's won. Let that person think that he has the upper hand, that they've criticized you, that they are better than you. Trust me, you take that, you play dumb, apply some patience, and I promise you, if you analyze the situation, you know yourself and your opponent or your competition, you will most certainly have information that you can use to your advantage, and you will most certainly have a better chance at securing a victory in the future. I'd rather have a person belittle me and his ego is stroked for the moment, and by applying patience and strategy, I'll whip his ass till kingdom come in the future. Eventually, I will win because I am the one that will go the extra mile. I am the one that will stay calm in the face of chaos. I am the one that will strategize for 3 or 4 years in order to get my revenge. And the best revenge at the end of the day is doing better in every single area than the people that taunted you or laughed at you or slandered your name. And this leads me to my next point. Only by being able to endure what other people can't bear can you do what they cannot do. Most people are not in control of their emotions. Most people are not aware of their main goals or targets that they want to hit in life. Most people don't pursue truth and knowledge. Most people don't have a grip on their own emotional state, their mental state, or even their physical state. If you cannot even conquer your own body and make it serve you, how are you going to conquer time? How are you going to conquer money? You see, it's not about talent. or being better than other people. It's about being able to endure what other people cannot bear. Most people can't say no to a fucking donut. So is it really that difficult in today's day and age to be extraordinary, to be great? I'm telling you now, it isn't. The world paints discipline and being organized as a prison, as a limitation, but it is freedom. I'm telling you, your mind will expand, your consciousness will expand, your soul will elevate. If you can just endure 20% more than other people can bear, then you will be better than 90% of people. And I promise you, once you had a taste, you won't turn back. Rockefeller shared a story with his son about a certain Mr. Andrews who wanted to sell his stock, and Rockefeller asked him, how much do you want for the stock? He said $1 million. He said, great stuff, I'll pay you $1 million. And he did. And this gentleman actually thought that he got a massive bargain. However, a couple of days later, the same stock increased with $300,000. So the same stock was valued at $1.3 million. And Mr. Andrews actually called Rockefeller a shrewd businessman because he thought Rockefeller orchestrated this. Obviously, Rockefeller knew what the difference is between price and value, but not wanting something like that hanging over his head or over his name, he actually offered this Mr. Andrews the opportunity to buy back his shares for the same million. So he could actually buy $1.3 million worth of stock for $1 million. And this Mr. Andrews, being egotistical and plainly said stupid, refused. You know, back then, 100 years ago, $1 million was a shit ton of money. And God only knows what that would have been worth, what that stock would have been worth in the next 5 or 10 years. Hell, what would it be worth today? And that just shows you that even some of the most successful people out there, people that have achieved great things, being able to become successful or being successful and achieving great things does not necessarily make you a smart individual. Some of the most successful people out there can also make stupid decisions the moment they allow their ego to get in the way. This oak literally had the opportunity to print $300,000 extra, right, in a day by buying back the same stock. And he refused because his pride and ego was in his own way. Stupid and spiteful, but he only spited himself. There is no such thing as luck. There is only chances. And some brave people out there do everything in their power that they can to increase their chances. And then the world calls it luck. But attitude and commitment with knowledge applied is what creates this thing that the world calls luck. I promise you, go look at any person that you can identify is committed, has a positive attitude, and has done everything he can to pursue knowledge and truth and apply that in his life. And you will find that they are very, very lucky individuals. That's what average people call them, to make themselves feel better for not having a positive attitude, not cultivating discipline and commitment, and not pursuing knowledge and applying it in their lives. In one of his letters, Rockefeller tells his son about a situation he found himself in where the board voted against buying Lima oil. And Rockefeller wanted to, by this stage they were super wealthy already. He wanted to ensure that they have a continuous supply of oil, basically make their massive ship unsinkable. And to the board, this was too big of a risk. So they voted against buying this. And Rockefeller stood up and said, okay, you know what, boys? I'll buy it with my own money. And when it does succeed, then the company can pay me back what I initially paid for it. This belief, this bold action, putting his money where his mouth is, showing his people that he is not afraid, he will lead, and even if he has to, he will take the risk of doing that on himself in order to elevate the ship, the company, everybody. And this bold action inspired his people so much that one of the board directors actually stood up and said, you know what, John, if you are willing to take this risk with your own money, if you're willing to do that with your wealth for us, then we can do it with you. And it's a beautiful example of how a bold and competent leader leads, even in the face of adversity, even in the face of fear, right? Fear is like an infectious disease. When it gets into your crew, your community, or your family, you need to fight it off. And sometimes you need to be able to risk everything in order to protect everything. And only by showing people that you will do this and you are willing to do that can you expect them to follow you into the abyss or into the chaos? What a beautiful privilege to be bold enough to take action like that and to lead people. It lights a fire in my belly. It gives me goosebumps. I aspire to be like that. And if we can cultivate a culture like that in our family, start with your family. If you can cultivate a culture like that, you will show your people that that is the way to handle life. That is the way to move forward. That is what we do, even in the face of danger, even in the face of fear or adversity. And I promise you, 9 out of the 10 times, an attitude like this and this type of boldness will serve your people. And if you can be the one to start this trend, this culture, and enforce it, this will serve all the future generations that will come from you. You won't be here to see it, but your family, your offspring will appreciate you for it. And even if they don't, even if they forget your name, the fact that you did it for people that don't know you, I'm pretty sure God will look favorably on somebody that can do that. In letter 28 from John D. Rockefeller to his son, he actually disagreed with his son, and he told him that he was disappointed because his son appointed Mr. Rogers in a very important position. And he actually took his son back. It's so beautiful how this guy, he's such a strategist, right? Because he tells his son a story in order to sway him. And he tells his son about the story when he met Mr. Rogers for the first time, and he asked him a question to test him. He said, how would you ensure that we get all of the prisons in America empty? And Mr. Rogers' reply was, Mr. Rockefeller, do you expect us to release all the criminals and the rapists and the thieves? And Rockefeller actually blatantly calls this guy stupid, because he is stupid. He showed a lack in ability to solve problems. Rockefeller did not suggest that they release all the criminals. He asked him, if you had to solve this problem, you had to get all the prisons in America empty, how would you do it? Now, he didn't give him a time frame necessarily. He didn't tell him what to do. He asked him, can you solve this problem? Can you think creatively? And the bottom line is that Roger couldn't. And when you have a person in a very important role of power, in order for that person to be competent, you need them to have creative problem-solving skills. They need to think creatively. Otherwise, they are incompetent. Because the moment they are going to face difficult challenges or adversity, they're going to give up, or they're just going to shrug their shoulders and say, there's nothing I can do. Because he chose that there's nothing he can do. He did not think creatively, and you can't even be angry at the oak because he never even showed an ability to think creatively. So the only person that you should blame when you put somebody like that in a position of power and they fuck it up is yourself. And he actually says that traditional ideas is the #1 enemy of creative planning. And when one does not have the initiative to think and plan creatively, then essentially you are incompetent. Most people fail not because they make mistakes, but because they are not fully committed. We are all going to have competition or opponents, whether it's competition or an opponent in a social situation or in business or in your relationships. You are going to compete against other human beings in various areas of your life. Rockefeller taught his son to research and review his competition, his opponents. He taught him to know his own and his opponents' strengths, weaknesses, personality, style of doing things, and their strategies. And if you can do this, if you can know strengths, weaknesses, styles and strategies of your opponent and of yourself, then you can take that information and you can use it to your advantage. 9 out of the 10 times, that information, when you analyze it and you think creatively, then you will be able to create an advantage for yourself. Rockefeller actually used this strategy to conquer the steel industry as well, even though it had the giant Mr. Andrew Carnegie. He didn't need it all, he just needed enough to dethrone Mr. Carnegie as the industry leader or as the monopoly in the industry. And he did this by researching, reviewing, and knowing his opponent. Life is chess, and you will most certainly get your ass handed to you if you don't do this, because there's other people that do this, and you will not be able to compete against them if you can't even do the same. If you want to conquer, you're going to do even more than they do. Those who say you cannot do it are those who don't succeed. I am more successful today than every single person that's ever told me it's not that easy. The people that tell you that it's not that easy, that you can't do it, that you should be careful, are singing a lullaby. They are not actually talking to you. They are talking to themselves, justifying their inability to achieve certain things, their inability to be bold and brave and dare greatly. Your attitude and willingness to attempt the seemingly difficult or seemingly impossible is shining a light on their inability to also be bold or brave or fearless. The whole point is to chase the impossible, to do the things that other people think are too difficult to be able to pull off. The people that do that are the trendsetters, those who dare greatly and actually pull these things off. They are the topics of all the people that said it's too difficult, it's not that easy, it cannot be done, or be careful. Choose today. Do you want to be the topic, or are you going to participate in the gossip? Be blessed.